Dum 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 da 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 dum 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 da 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 da. Welcome to Flip.
In our global world, English is the language that connects us. But sometimes even knowing all the words and having perfect grammar is not enough. We need to have a better understanding of what culture is and how to navigate between different cultures.
The culture of a society has often been compared with an iceberg. Only 10% of the iceberg is above the water and visible to anyone, for example architecture or the way people dress and behave. This is the external or conscious culture. It is based on explicit knowledge and can easily be changed. If your first impression of India is made through a Bollywood movie, your concept of the country will easily be changed once you visit it. However, the remaining 90% of the iceberg is underwater and invisible to the superficial glance. The values, beliefs, and thought patterns that influence our behavior represent our internal culture. It is subconscious. We are not directly aware of it, the way a fish never has to think about the water it swims in, but accepts it as normal. Internal culture is hard to change. If your way of thinking is never in conflict with your surroundings, you also do not have to adapt it. That also means that we cannot truly understand another culture without interacting with it, which brings us to the weaknesses in the iceberg analogy. The iceberg model suggests that culture is something solid, well-defined, an ice block isolated in a vast ocean. The issues with that image are obvious. If you asked any two people from the same cultural background, what is typical for your culture, they would give you very different answers, and yet you would find certain similarities too. So culture is a construct, something vague that has inexplicitly been agreed upon by the people who consider themselves part of it. And those people have all kinds of different backgrounds, fears and hopes, consider themselves part of different subcultures. Since the 19th century, culture has also been more closely connected to a sense of nationality. Defining our own culture, be it based on borders or on a shared language, always includes distinguishing between ourselves and others. The way we perceive others is influenced by a variety of factors. The more objective they are, the easier it is for us to communicate with members of that society. These factors could be emotional, that is our own subconscious feelings about a culture and how interested we are in it. Our factual knowledge about a culture is another factor. For example, whether you can speak the language or how familiar you are with the geographical context, laws, or the system of government of a country. Naturally, the degree of contact you have had with a culture influences your image too. It could be direct, by visiting it, or indirect, through media. Of course, these factors do not stand isolated either, and influence each other constantly. Navigating between culture is a complex process. This is also why we easily resort to stereotypes when engaging with different cultures. They are a way for our brain to simplify an unknown factor to basic judgments. Stereotypes do not necessarily need to be negative. If you think of a man wearing a suit as trustworthy, that is a stereotype that works in favor of suit-wearing men. Stereotypes become prejudice when one group makes negative assumptions about another group of people, based on stereotypes and without real evidence. Most of the time, intercultural communication will happen naturally and without too many problems. Yet it gets tricky when a concept seems to be the same but really describes different things in different cultures. Take free speech as a core value to democratic societies. For someone from the United States, free speech would be one of the most highly valued principles that cannot be touched without undermining the democratic basis of the country. On a superficial level, Germans, being a democratic Western culture as well, and thus fairly similar, might agree with that. But the German constitution sees human dignity as the highest value within society. Thus, in Germany, one person's right to free speech ends where another person's dignity is harmed. In the US, limiting free speech to coddle others would be considered undemocratic. This shows that even advanced knowledge of a country or a language are sometimes not enough to navigate between cultures. Different concepts of the same term can only be uncovered through communication, and yet our own predispositions often keep us from having those conversations.
So what can we, as motivated learners of the English language, do to make intercultural communication more successful? Unfortunately, there is no simple one-size-fits-all solution to every cultural misunderstanding. All we can do is keep an open mind, ask questions, and be aware of our own cultural dispositions. This goes from simple things like personal space and distance to others to more complex things like why are certain topics touchy and why do we feel so strongly about them? Are those feelings something that come from us as individuals or because of the context we grew up in? We will probably never find the perfect answer to this question, but asking it makes us a little more sensitive when communicating with people from different cultures.